Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and I'm with Lorri Ratzlaff. And Lorri is from Vancouver. Is that correct?
That's right. Just a little bit outside.
And today we're going to be talking about, one of my favorite subjects is social media. I started teaching this about a decade ago when it was Plaxo, and nobody even knows what Plaxo is anymore. And then I gravitated to LinkedIn and then to Facebook. But we're going to be talking about Instagram stories. We're going to be talking about Snapchat. We're going to be talking about niching your services to the exact clients that you want. So welcome, Lorri, and I'm glad you were able to make it.
Thank you so much for having me, Rob. It's just a real honor and pleasure, and I'm really excited to be here.
You were just on vacation in, what was it, Kelowna? How was that?
I was, yeah, Kelowna, British Columbia. It was absolutely wonderful. It's so beautiful in the interior of British Columbia. I could have stayed for a month, but it was 2 days. So that was all I had time for this summer, but it was really, really wonderful. Yeah, we hit vineyards and walked the lake and went out on boats, and it was just awesome.
But you still took the time to Snapchat.
I did. I have a community there in a way that I don't feel like I have a community on other social networks. And not that I felt obligated, but I wanted to include them in my experiences. So it was very, very important for me. I hiked a mountain on just 2 days ago. There was zero Wi-Fi, zero any ability to connect, but I kept, making snaps so that when I got back to where there was Wi-Fi available, the story all went through. It's that community that, it's really, really fascinating to me how community is being built on Snapchat. And I just feel it's really important to include them in my life and what I'm doing. So,
I had Snapchat on my phone for about a year before I decided to use it.
Wow.
I would go in and tinker with it and then say, hi and this. And then I didn't know how to actually use it to build trust with my community because it's a different platform than Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. So, I stopped using it.
Extremely different, yeah.
And then I guess it was a few months ago, I got back into it and, it just exploded. And it's like now my kids are using it and my clients are using it. But there are still people out there that just don't know how to use Snapchat or any, live broadcasting type of social media platform like that to build trust with their community because it's different.
It's very different. And I personally feel like anybody can push buttons, right? Like you can't, I say this to my students and my clients all the time, like you can't break anything. So keep pushing buttons until it works. I'll tell you which buttons to push. I personally feel like, especially for my niche market, which is the 50 plus crowd, the biggest thing that gets in their way is this right here. And they're afraid to share themselves. They're afraid to tell their story. They're afraid their story isn't important enough. They're afraid that they're going to say something stupid or, those types of things. So those are the barriers for the people that I deal with the most. Anybody can push buttons on this thing and make it go and make it a valuable experience for those people that are paying attention to them. So yeah, that's what I find is most important. And that's why I feel like the people that I'm dealing with, they're not using those platforms because they're just so afraid of saying the wrong thing or what have you. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I think what happens is people are afraid that their story isn't unique enough and they don't want to share it.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're saying, well, I've already shared my story once. How many times must I share it? But, every time someone pops in, especially, I like Snapchat. When someone new comes on, I'll just record a really quick message. Hey, this is Rob.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for joining my Snapchat. If you have any questions, snap me. And then I send it to them. And
Yeah.
I don't care if it's stupid or not. People engage back and forth. And, it's not that I'm there to try to sell them on something. I would love to sell them on something, but that's not what Snapchat's about.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, you can definitely have clear calls to action. In fact, I just did this morning. I was preempting our interview, and then I mentioned who my target market was and what I provide. And then I said, hey, if you know anybody in this niche, send them to this website. And I got a bunch of screen grabs on that snaps. So, you never know what could come of it. But, you have to build that know, like, and trust first. And that comes with weeks and months of sharing yourself. And I mean, that's on any platform. And like you said earlier, like, I think that people feel like once they've told their story once, that's enough. And I've been trapped in that too. Like, I feel like, oh, I've said this before. But we just don't realize how many people are watching. And even sometimes somewhat secretly, like, people can follow on Facebook without being your friends, or they can, if you have, depending on your settings on Snapchat or any of the other live platforms, anybody truly can watch. So telling your story over and over again is really important. And I think the more that we practice saying it, the better we get at it, and the more impactful it can become.
I find that live anything scares people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If it's just, hey, I'm going to pre-record this, then they can have time, they can edit it, they can make it perfect, they can send it out. But live, right, you're getting someone in the raw. You're getting someone, their emotions are right there. And I think what happens is that, as a kid, we don't have a problem. We'll get behind that camera and talk all night long. But as we get older, we get more reserved and we fear stuff. Yeah. And we fear that we're going to make a mistake.
Fear of making a mistake, fear of judgment, fear of what are they going to think. Honestly, I make a lot of videos. I still, to this day, after I've been making videos for like 8 years, there are still days when I'm like, oh, what will my kids think? Like that kind of stuff, which is, they don't watch my videos, so they don't care.
My youngest daughter's like, Dad, why are you on Snapchat?
Right.
And it's the teenagers want something that they can call their own. And it was like that. Facebook was like that. All the teenagers were on Facebook, and then us adults got on and ruined it for them. And then they jumped on Instagram and did that. And now they're on Snapchat, and we're ruining it for them there.
Or Musically, right? Yeah. Even, adults are migrating over into Musically and Lively and all, it's fascinating to me. I think so many people are afraid of the evolution of social media because it's not ever stopping. Like, we both know that. Right. I think it's fascinating, and I love learning as many of the platforms as I can. And I love being involved in as many, but yeah, it scares a lot of people. A lot of people I deal with. Right. Oh, sorry.
No, I think it does scare people. And the fact is that it's overwhelming because they don't want to be on so many platforms. They're like, well, wait a minute. I only have 24 hours in a day. I can't be giving people messages on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, and Instagram, and Pinterest, and Snapchat, and Instagram stories, and and Periscope. Well, it gets overwhelming, and I'm glad that the technology is there, but in the same respect, technology is also causing itself to bottom out. Blab just ceased to exist. Periscope is on the way out. And we were just talking off air that I think that in the next few months, in the next year or so, Twitter is going to completely either have to reinvent themselves or they're going to be gone. With Microsoft buying LinkedIn, it's so overwhelming to people, this technology.
Right. I believe there could be some value in having Well, I believe there is like the core unit, the Facebook, YouTube will never go anywhere. Instagram, Snapchat. Oh, I I heard something there. I think if LinkedIn is careful, they'll be able to stick around for a while. I do still. Twitter is just a funny bird. Like I see value in it for different niches, like sports, for example, sporting events. They thrive on Twitter, like huge. And in fact, here's a great example. I was so busy that I did not watch the Olympics this summer. And that's huge for me because I'm a huge sports fan and I normally watch the Olympics like round the clock kind of thing. But this year I was like, no, I just can't. But I earmarked a couple of accounts like the Team Canada and Team USA. I followed the entire Olympics through Twitter.
Wow.
So there is still some value in it for specific niches. I think for marketers though, for people like you and I, for people who do other type of online marketing, that's the sort of niche industry that is kind of bottoming out on it. So right. It should be really interesting for sure.
Now
Musicians use Twitter a lot as well, I believe.
I use Twitter only, and I'm not a big Twitter fan myself. I think it's pure chaos. I mirror a lot of my Facebook posts over to Twitter, and people say, "Oh, you can't do that. That's not allowed. You're supposed to be unique across your platforms." But here's the thing: is I don't have time to be on every single platform. So right. I concentrate on the ones that I like the best, where my clients are coming to me, and anything else I duplicate. Pinterest is one of those where if you do it right, the SEO will help your website, because you're adding your URL to your website to Pinterest. Yeah. But I still have not gravitated towards Instagram stories yet.
Okay.
And I think that's what's confusing to people. And you develop this great following on Instagram, and I think with Instagram it's so much easier to get followers than Snapchat. But
it is.
But then you don't follow through on the Instagram stories, which is relatively new to some people.
Yeah.
And I think that's hurting. I think that you'll get more followers with the pictures that you post on Instagram than you will with the live video. But, since I don't do it as often, I haven't seen the pros and cons yet.
So my experience thus far, because I do use them both, I still post. I have 2 different Instagram accounts just for myself, and then I have a bunch for clients. But for myself, on one account, I post once a day. On the other account, I post sometimes up to 3 times per day. The account where I post 3 times per day, I also do stories on there. Mm-hmm. So I have a following of around 11 or 1,200 on that account. My story views are very low. Mm-hmm. And engagement is, honestly, the engagement is people that have come to follow me on my Instagram stories from Snapchat.
Right.
So my views and my engagement on Snapchat, even though I have probably 1/3 of the followers on Snapchat, my views and engagement is, 25, 30, 50 times as high as on Instagram stories. So it's a weird balance. Yeah. Like the fans that I have and the people that follow me on Instagram are definitely not, they haven't migrated over to following or watching my stories yet.
Well,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, one of my clients is a doctor, and he was posting, Snapchat stuff all the time on Facebook. And I said, why don't we pick one day a week where you mention your Snapchat, because people are getting overwhelmed. They come here to get Facebook stuff. They don't come here to get Snapchat stuff. So we picked Saturday. So we created the hashtag Snapchat Saturday, and we just post some things from his Snapchat. And it says, if you want to follow me, here's my username. And now more people are going to his Snapchat because we only mention it one time a week, on his Facebook.
That's a great strategy. I really like that. I may end up borrowing that.
But he went from, I think, 400 followers to 700 followers just by implementing one little small strategy like that on, by kind of re-engaging his Snapchat audience on Facebook. But by not overkill.
Right. That's awesome. And I haven't tried that at all. Like, I've left Snapchat all by its lonesome, and I shouldn't say not at all. I do drive traffic to Snapchat from Instagram, but not very much from Facebook.
Right.
So.
One of the things that I did early on was try to engage people, everywhere. But I was having so much difficulty. And I said, let's focus on one or two things. And once I focused on those one or two things, like Facebook and LinkedIn, people started gravitating towards those other platforms that I'm on. And so
right.
That was one of the things that helped me overcome the overwhelm and the frustration. And so I teach that to my clients, and they seem to get it better because you don't have to be everywhere on social media.
I completely 100% agree with that. I also take the stance of this. However, while you're doing that, this is also available. So in time, you may want to learn that as well. I personally like being on all the different platforms. I've actively post to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Snapchat daily. And I do 2 videos a week on my YouTube channel, and Pinterest I kind of forgot about. So, yeah, it does take time though. Absolutely.
Well,
we're marketers, right?
Right.
So,
and what I tell everybody is that even though you don't like Pinterest, make your web site Pinterest compatible, so that every time someone goes on one of your pictures on your website, it's got the P symbol for Pinterest.
Yes.
Click on it, it automatically gets shared to your Pinterest.
Right.
And it makes life so much easier.
Yes.
And now my site just exploded because everything is Pinterest compatible.
Oh, that's awesome.
And now people are sharing I'll share every time I put a blog out, that blog goes on my Pinterest. And now that's being shared more often, which, it didn't before. So you can do that with your videos. You can do that with your blog. And it just, even if it doesn't get, pinned anywhere else, just for the SEO purposes of it, it helps get your website out there.
I do use Pinterest and I do pin. I just don't schedule it into my week per se. Like, I just kind of do it randomly. Right. And so it's just the way it is.
You had mentioned that you post pretty often, and I think that's also a thing that bothers people, because they see, well, I have a hard time coming up with one idea a day. Now you want me to post 3 or 4 times a day. And, when we did that for our client, we were posting one post a day for about a year, and then we upped it. So now it's 2 posts a day. Then it was 3 posts a day. And, but what happened is that, he was going from an average of 100 new fans a month on 1 post a day to 400 on 2 posts a day. Wow. And on 3 posts a day, he's up to 1,000 new fans a month. So
that's fantastic.
There's power in frequency.
Absolutely, there is. And especially because I do a lot of research for YouTube, because personally, that's a platform I want to grow exponentially. So that's where I spend a lot of my time, like, learning how to get better. And they all say, the more videos you can post, the better. The more, the better. Bigger is better over there.
Well, also every video needs to be optimized for, the search keywords that you want to put out.
It's a lot of work.
I think people forget about that. They forget about putting a thumbnail. They forgot about, putting a link from that video back to their website or wherever they want to go. They forget about adding the keywords and the description. The best thing to do when you make a video have it transcribed, and then take that transcription, throw it back in your video, and now Google is analyzing that whole transcription, not just the little short blurb that you put out, and your video goes viral. I mean, it just gets picked up by all the keywords now.
Exactly.
But people forget.
It can, yeah. There's definitely a sequence of steps that need to be taken to optimize your video. And even then, I mean, chances are you could get 30 views, you could get 30,000. You just really never know. I love videos and YouTube and video marketing so much, though, that I refuse to stop trying. I have a goal of 10,000 subscribers for this year, and I'm a quarter way there. But
well,
you just never know, right?
And you might have that one excuse me. You might have that one video that gets you 6,000 subscribers right off the bat.
It could happen. Stranger things have happened. So I never stop trying.
What got you into the social media realm?
Do you know, that's a great question. I learned about Facebook early 2007, kind of like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And I'm of such a curious nature that, I mean, I had been using some other platforms back then already. What was it? Plaxo or whatever?
Plaxo. Mm-hmm.
I remember that. That was a long time ago.
Then I went from that to, I think, was Friendster or Friend something.
Oh yeah, Friendster. Oh my word, we're old.
I think I was on that for like 2 weeks, and I said enough.
Yeah. Anyways, so I found Facebook, and I was just instantly hooked. I saw something so unique in this, of the connection value, and all of my friends and family were like, Lorri, you're crazy. You're putting yourself out there as a single mother and, a single person. They were just concerned for me, right? So, but I was like, nope, there's just something here. So that was 2007, and it stuck. And then, all the other platforms came along, and I was always sort of reinventing what I was doing and trying different things for online marketing and even some network marketing. And then in 2011, I was restructured out of a job, and I was just like, it's now or never. I've always been very entrepreneurial spirited and minded, and I just thought I need to. This is my chance. And so since 2011, I've been a social media manager and consultant. And I did take a training course at that time. Kate Buck Jr., I'm not sure if you know who she is. Let's Get Social. That's really all that was available back in 2011. And it's just kind of evolved since then.
Yeah. And my story is, I had a cleaning business for about 20 years, and back in 1998, I think it was 3 years after I started this cleaning business, I almost went bankrupt. I didn't know how to market. I didn't know how to do anything. And, I had to learn marketing. So, I went to Arizona, went to a seminar, learned marketing. And, from then I was hooked. And then, 10 years later, you got social media, and I was like, I know this stuff. I did computers in high school. I can do programming. And people will say, hey, you do social media. Do you do SEO too? And I'm like, oh, I could do that, because I did my own website. And I'm like, sure. I had no idea, but I would learn it very quickly. And I'm like, oh yeah. And people were like, hey, wow, my website's on page 1. Thank you very much. And they're shelling out money. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to do this. But, it took me, many, many years later to finally sell the cleaning business, to devote full time to do this. I was doing consulting on the side for, 10, 15 years. And, it was just, I needed my own breakout, and the books provided that breakout. And then, when I wrote a small social media ebook, and then I wrote Share, and then I wrote Optimize This, and then I wrote that one, which is Lessons from the Dojo, which was my 4th book. And then I wrote the Ask Dr. A book, which was I co-authored that with a renowned gastric sleeve doctor out of Mexico, which I'm actually writing another one to that. And then I wrote a cancer book for a friend of mine who overcame thymoma cancer. And that book's coming out next month, and that's called Life Wins. And then
Wow.
I'm writing 3 books simultaneously starting in September that have to be done by December. So it's crazy.
Do you plan on sleeping in the next 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, I have the outline. Another one is actually going to be a social media book. It's going to be called Social Leverage. And it's going to talk about all the different networks and what happens when a network fails or goes out of business. And see, I was doing a lot of episodes on Blab, and we are up to our 12th episode. We're doing a weekly show, and Blab decided to quit. And then we're like, well, where do we film this?
Right.
And you and I right now are working on a service called Zoom. And, we were talking offline how Zoom for me kind of replaced Google Hangouts. But now Zoom isn't as great as it should have been or what had been.
Used to be, yeah.
Used to be. And I think there's way too many people using it right now, and that's going to kill it. But
that's an interesting perspective. I mean, if we had said that about Facebook, but I don't think Zoom doesn't have the characteristics that it needs. I mean, it, like you said, it started out great, but yeah, there's something better will come along. It has to, because we need to be able to communicate. And that's actually really interesting. That's as a good segue into the new Facebook Live that's coming, which will be two-way interactive. I'm very excited about that. I know it's coming soon. I don't know how soon, but I follow Mari Smith and Brian Fanzo and all, those big social media influencers quite closely. And they last week, or maybe it was, anyways, within the last 2 weeks, everybody was announcing that, it's coming soon. So that's going to be really interesting once Facebook goes to that, the same sort of platform that Blab had.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if they'll have up to 4 spots available, but for sure 2. And just to see where that goes, because that will be really, really interesting.
I like the ability to live stream, but I don't like when people stop what they're saying, their message, and say, "Oh, hi, Bill. Hi, Sue. Hi, this." I'm like, shut up. Come on. I just want to hear what you have to say. And then the heart's flying everywhere. It's like, that's the only problem I don't like about that is because you cannot reuse it for, an evergreen product down the road. If you're just filming something like you and I are interviewing each other, great. I mean, that's more evergreen. That can be used down the road. But a live stream with you, talking, interacting with everybody, it's very hard.
That's what I like about Snapchat. I mean, it is 10-second increments, but you can reuse it and make it evergreen, and there aren't all those interruptions in there.
Right.
I really like how Kim Garst does all of her live streams. Like, she'll say her message and teach her lesson, and then she'll do Q&A at the end of it. So it's a good methodology to follow. With
Snap, what I encourage people to do is that if you have a long story that you're telling over 10, 15 snaps, download them back onto your phone.
Yes.
And then take your, like with iPhone, they have iMovie. Then take all those clips and put them into one long continuous movie.
Right.
So instead of having 15, 10 seconds clips, now you have, a 2-minute clip that you can now put on YouTube or share to your Facebook.
Yeah. And that's what I do too. I mean, I'm not on Apple products, but I still find ways to edit it. Oh. I'm still a really good person. I don't know. I've never been drawn into that, but I've never tried. So who knows? Maybe once I try, I'll never go back. But
I was a Microsoft person for a long, long time, and probably for about 20 years. And I just got so tired of, random updates and tired of viruses. And when I switched over to Macs, it just made my life so much easier because I don't have, the constant updates. I don't have the viruses.
Right.
And it's now, as Macs become more popular, there are viruses out there that can attack Macs, but not in the same veracity as Microsoft products.
Right.
So, you never know.
Exactly.
But, to each his own. Everybody that's out there, you have to use a product that you can depend on.
Yes. And user friendly is definitely,
right.
Something that's very, very important, especially for the people that I teach. I think that I probably should eventually do something along the lines of an iPhone, just because the majority of people I teach, that's what they use.
Right.
So, I mean, I know how to work my way around an iPhone. I've just never had one.
Now, with you focusing on a niche that's, the older crowd,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be there soon, a few more years.
Come along. The water's not so bad.
I have a 3-year-old grandson, so he makes me feel old. But what are some of the things that you encourage them to do that maybe the younger people wouldn't do?
Oh, do you know what? I really encourage them more than anything to value themselves and value their story. They've lived half a century already. They've experienced so much and can offer so much value based on those experiences. And for the most part, a lot of people are just like, oh, never mind, or it's not important. Well, yes, it is. And it's important for them to be sharing it, to be offering solutions to the younger people based on those experiences. So a lot of what I do, like I said earlier, isn't about button pushing. It's about, the psychological aspect of it, the even emotional aspect of it. I, not intentionally, but I had a woman in tears a couple of weeks ago. I looked her straight in the eyes and I said, your story matters. She just started to tear up. And I was like, you've had so many amazing experiences, and you can translate that into your business and what you're doing and offer that as a solution or even as a support system for someone younger who has no clue. Young kids these days, they think they're invincible and they're going to live forever. Well, we both know what happens there.
Yeah.
But, there's just that life experience that I'm really encouraging people to get out there and tell their story.
The younger kids, they just put whatever's on their mind, they post it, and they have I think they have no concept that it's going to be there forever.
Yes.
As you get a little older, you're a little bit more reserved in what you post. So what you do post has more meaning.
I protect my brand, which is me.com. I protect it very, very, very well. And it's the most important thing to me because, like you said, here's an example. My sister sometimes, I'm not sure she'll ever see this, but she's gotten much better at it, but she sometimes posts pictures, from family gatherings or whatnot that I feel are inappropriate or not something that represents my brand. And I tell her, take that down. It doesn't represent me or who I am. I mean, one of them, as an example, was me napping on the couch after Christmas dinner. Well, I don't need people to see that I'm napping. That's irrelevant to my brand. But yeah, you're right. Kids put out stuff that is really inappropriate and sad and sometimes scary. And there's lots of stuff that happens on the internet that shouldn't. But, I think you and I, as professionals here of social media, we need to encourage the positivity of it and do what we can about the negativity, but while not focusing on it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It was in 2009, I came up with a set of rules to kind of guide people on social media. And one of them was, the grandma rule. If your grandmother doesn't approve, don't post it. Now we're getting to the point where I'm a grandfather. Most of the people I know are grandparents, And I'm like, do you approve? And they're like, I don't care. I'm like, come
Oh,
on now.
that's
Stop.
funny.
You know,
Yeah, no, it is definitely interesting, and they'll learn though, right? Like in 10 years from now, they'll look back and go, oh, I wish I wouldn't have posted that picture of that party kind of thing. And so the thing, social media just isn't going anywhere. And as much as we can guide and help people, we need more people like us, I think.
now, do you do Facebook groups? Do you have a group for your particular clients?
Do you know, I do. I have a group for my students, and I admittedly don't use it as often or as well as I should. It's not something I've focused on at all, but I have been realizing the importance of it because I'm a member of other extremely active groups, so I see what's possible. So I'm going to be focusing more on my own group in the next, moving forward, because I don't want to. Somebody said, oh, just dissolve it, and no, I don't want to. Like, it's my name, it's my brand, and it's important to me to learn how to grow that and use it effectively as well, because Facebook groups are incredible when they're done right. Incredible.
I created the business dojo a couple years ago, and
Right.
all I was doing was posting motivational stuff. And
Okay.
a year went by, and then I took all that motivational stuff and wrote the lessons from the dojo. And so
So all of these were in your Facebook group.
Mhm.
Wow, I didn't know that.
They were short posts, and then
Yeah.
I expanded them all out for the book.
Yeah.
So the headlines on each lesson were
That
on the
oh,
Facebook group.
okay. I
And
get
then
it.
I just expanded them into lessons. So
Right.
everything that you do can be turned into a book.
And, I often forget the importance of more traditional type things too, even email. I don't use email as well as I could or should. And that's considered a more traditional type of marketing as well. And, same thing. I could be taking the posts that I do and sending it out to my list.
But
Again,
even
it
if you
comes down
do
to,
right, even if you do a once a week post to your email list, where it's let's just say a Friday follow up, and it gives
right.
people a little bit what you did on Twitter and maybe a post on Facebook, and it just gives them an idea of what you're saying, like a recap.
Right. That's a good
And
idea.
that way at least you're getting your message across to your email subscribers who maybe they opted in a long time ago, but they still want to hear your message.
Right.
And because that the feed on social media, not everybody's going to see what you post that day.
You're exactly right. And, I've been kind of cyclical with email because I'll get, really into it and I'll do my once a week thing and then I'll let it slide. And it's not something that I've made a sincere enough commitment to. And it just like Facebook groups, I really want to emphasize that in my own marketing in moving forward. So that's a great idea though. The recap idea. I like that. Thank you.
What?
I'm going to use that.
So that's like 2 ideas I gave you.
I know.
Send you an invoice.
No, I'll just send you more followers.
What did you do before that you niched your services to the 50 older group?
I was kind of wanting to be all things to all people, and that was a big mistake. Oh, hi, buddy.
That's my youngest. He just came home from school.
Nice. My children are so far out of school now.
Yeah.
They're in university.
My oldest is 27, and then I have a 25-year-old, 23.
Oh, okay.
And then I have a 19-year-old and a 15-year-old and a 11-year-old.
Oh my word. You are busy. I have two. They're 22 and 23. Yeah. That's it.
and the grandson and the dog. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I have a nice microphone.
You win.
I live a very simple life. Very, very simple.
For me, it's very hard to work out of my home sometimes because I have to be wrapped up before they all come home.
Yeah, no doubt. I know how that goes. When my youngest daughter is here, it gets pretty. She's in musical theater and very dramatic and very loud. And there's always singing and tap dancing going on. So yeah, it's hard to focus when that's happening. But yeah. So prior to really niching down kind of the all things to all people, not a good plan. Yeah. You get very scattered and pulled very thin, and it's exhausting and it doesn't serve anybody really. So
what do you do when you're not doing social media? I mean, I know you go on vacations for 2 days, but that's about it.
I really love getting outdoors. I do a lot of hiking, walking, running. I like to I live about an hour outside of Vancouver. So I love to go into the city and go to the ocean and just do everything that Vancouver has to offer. Actually, my plan is to move to Vancouver next year, 2017. I want to be there by summer, and just enjoy everything that amazing city has to offer.
Excuse me. Well, I know Vancouver is a big sci-fi town. I mean, a lot of shows get filmed there.
Yeah, they call it Hollywood North. So there is a lot of filming that goes on there. There isn't a week that goes by that one of my kids goes, "Mom, let's go into the city. So-and-so is here filming. Like, let's go stalk them." And I'm like, okay. I haven't gone stalking with her for a while, but she goes with her friends. So whatever.
So you're Lorri the stalker, huh?
No, my daughter is the stalker, but I'm Lorri the hiker. I love to hike. I really like to be outdoors and be active and just keep myself fit. This is the second half for me and I want to stay as healthy as possible. So I do make an effort to do that.
I like to hike and I like to camp, but when I don't get Wi-Fi, I'm a terrible person.
Yeah, I get a little bit grouchy too, but it's good to unplug though, to have a digital detox. It's important, especially for people like us who spend, so much time on devices. It's really important. So we're
running out of time, but is there anything that you want to share with the audience? Your contact information.
Oh, sure. Message. So Lorri Ratzlaff is my name. That's Lorri with 2 R's. I'm sure Rob will spell that out for you somewhere. If you if you Google me, you'll find me, because all of my social networks and everything is under that name or variations thereof. I think on one Instagram account, I didn't get my name for some reason. There's another Lorri Ratzlaff out there. But for my YouTube videos, all my socials, it's Lorri Ratzlaff. And I just really want to encourage people to realize the value of their story, and that if you are a marketer and if you are in the position of using the internet to sell something, whether it be a product or a service of your own or what have you, your story matters. And that's what I want people to really get right in here. Because, as we said so many times, people are afraid and there's nothing to be afraid of. If you do it with heart and with compassion and empathy, it can only bring about good. And I believe that with all my heart.
And it's also important to realize that you need to niche, your services down and not be all things to all people.
Yes, that took me a long time to figure out. I was scrambling for a long time, and just niching down is definitely very, very important.
Well, I thank everyone for listening, and I
Yes.
encourage you guys to follow Lorri on Snapchat. I mean, there's days where I'm going through Snapchat, and she's the funniest person there. I mean, she just has, I don't know if it's intentional, but it's just, I like what you have to say. I mean, it's just, and you're real. You're not trying to put on airs. You're just,
Right.
you're doing everything comfortable, and you're having fun doing it.
I
And
am.
it's refreshing when I get someone like that, and I'm watching them, because it's not that I'm a stalker. It's just that I have to look at some of these examples to show my clients
Mhm.
what is good, what people are doing, the examples. And Lorri is a great example of
Aw.
just follow her, because you're going to see things that she's doing that you're going to want to emulate. It's just,
Well, thank you so much for that. It is very important for me to be myself, and
well, you can't
you
be
just
me.
wait till hockey season starts. Oh my goodness. You think you're laughing now, you'll be like screaming.
I can't believe you're a hockey fan. I mean, you only live in Canada. Come on.
Hockey and Tim Hortons. What else is there?
Yeah, that's right. Coffee and hockey. I mean, geez, really.
Oh,
I,
that's
yeah,
well,
there's,
thank you so much, Rob. This has been so much fun and
see,
just
I try to make,
hopefully very valuable.
I try to make things fun. It's just, I said, it's just a conversation, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, no, it's
No,
just,
exactly.
and the thing is that conversation that you have with a client, whether it be, one-on-one or as a group on social media, needs to go beyond your social platform to the real life.
Yes.
And that's what social media does.
Yeah.
So, don't think of it as a chore. Don't think of it as marketing. Don't think of it as, an overwhelming frustration. Think of it as a conversation. And it's going to make your social media so much easier,
Mhm.
and more rewarding, funner. And you're going to get the return on your investment is going to be so much better type of clientele.
Definitely. Oh, 100%. 100%.
So thank you, Lorri. And I hope we can do this again, maybe when you've gotten the opportunity to read my other books.
I promise I will. And I'm sorry it took me so long. I enjoyed this very, very much. For those of you who have not yet read this, I actually spread this all across my Snapchat and my Instagram stories already. And for anybody watching this, if you have not picked up a copy of this with Rob or myself to learn how to order it, because it is really, really good. And I'm going to read the other one next. I promise.
Just read that one again.
I'm going to. I'm sure the other half will be dog-eared by then. Because half of it already is.
Just threw it on the ground. No respect.
No, those are my glasses, my other glasses.
Oh, okay. See ya.